And the tension inside that courtroom, you could slice it with a knife. Every seat was taken. Every eye locked on Diddy, sitting there stone-faced, like a statue sculpted in panic. His elite legal team flanking him like guards on a sinking ship. The air was heavy, like it knew what was coming before anyone else did. No cameras were allowed, but if they were, they'd have caught every nervous glance, every twitch of a lawyer's hand, every breath held hostage by anxiety. Then it happened. The prosecution stood up and without warning called a witness no one expected. A woman in her 40s walked in, calm on the surface, but her eyes, they carried storms. She raised her hand to take the oath, and you could literally hear people shift in their seats, the creak of wood echoing like thunder. She wasn't here to play. She was holding something dangerous. You could feel it. Can you name who was present during the gathering in Los Angeles on June 13th, 2016, the prosecutor asked. She answered slowly. Sean Combs, some security, a logistics guy named James, then a pause, so long it was practically a scream in silence. Anyone else? The prosecutor nudged. She inhaled sharply. R. Kelly was there. Boom, the air detonated. Gasps erupted like fireworks. One woman whispered, "What?" while another man threw a hand over his mouth. Even the stenographer paused, clearly shaken. It was just a name, 2 syllables, but it hit like a car crash. Everyone felt it. Why was R. Kelly's name even coming up? What business did he have showing up in Diddy's trial? The judge tried to keep control. Diddy's attorney jumped to object. The prosecution held their ground. Your Honor, this is foundational testimony. She's recounting who was there. The judge gave a heavy sigh, then leaned back, proceed with caution. So the witness kept going. She said, R. Kelly came in late, stayed maybe 30, 40 minutes, then left. She didn't speak to him, but she saw something that clung to the edges of her mind ever since. Mitty and R. Kelly were behind a guarded door, alone. Just like that, the trial shifted. It wasn't about Diddy's charges anymore. It was about what was happening behind those locked doors. What happened after R. Kelly arrived? The prosecutor asked. Her voice dipped low. The whole vibe changed. Diddy was different, more controlling, more closed off. Places in the house that were open earlier, suddenly off limits. I was told not to go upstairs. By whom? Security. But the orders came from higher up, from Diddy. The defense tried to object again, desperate. But the damage was done. Everyone had heard it, and once an idea is planted like that, it spreads. Then came the bombshell text messages. The prosecution pulled up screenshots live in front of the jury. He's here. I can't believe it. RK just walked in and now Sean's shutting everything down. Something's wrong. The jury leaned in. Another text followed. Get out if you can. This is the same weird feeling I had in 2009. It's happening again. That one hit like a lightning bolt. Whatever happened that night wasn't isolated. There was a pattern. One buried under years of silence. Then came the second witness. An older man, maybe late 50s, all calm authority and steely nerves. Former security. Not just a guard, he was the guy who kept secrets safe. I worked the perimeter at Diddy's estate that night, he said. Phones were confiscated, guests were cleared for specific zones. When R. Kelly arrived, 2 zones were locked down, he continued. Extra guards, no one allowed near the north wing. He didn't say what was happening up there. He didn't need to. The secrecy said it all. But he didn't stop there. I was asked twice to abandon my post for special clearance. That's not protocol. When I got back, I saw a young woman being led out. She looked broken. Her makeup was smeared. She was crying. And just like that, the glamour drained out of the courtroom. This wasn't a party anymore. This wasn't entertainment. This was something darker. He tried to report it. 2 weeks later, his contract ended without warning. Was that the only night you ever felt uneasy working an event like that? The prosecutor asked. No, he said. That was the only night I went home, locked my door, and stayed up wondering if I should have walked upstairs. Even the defense couldn't shake him. Their cross-exam was limp. Everyone saw through it. This man didn't need to lie. He had nothing to gain. Then the prosecution returned to the first witness, Ms. Harrovan. She'd been calm earlier. Now she looked like she was carrying the weight of every secret in Hollywood. Was that the only time Diddy gave a command to lock everything down? She shook her head. No, it wasn't the first. I worked 5 of his events. Same pattern, specific guests, tightened security, silent staff. Was R. Kelly at the other events? No, but others in his circle were. Artists, executives, same script. And then, just when you thought it couldn't get heavier, the prosecution pulled out a document, a redacted staff log. One line made the jury snap to attention. Level 3 lockdown initiated. Guest RK confirmed on premises. No audio/video surveillance active. That was it. The line that burned a hole through any illusion that these were just parties. This wasn't chaos. It was coordination. Then the clerk read aloud a transcript from a cooperating witness whose name was hidden for safety. They worked the third-floor suite. That night, they were told to prepare the room for 2 guests only, Sean Combs and R. Kelly. They were told to disable cameras, to leave after the setup, and the next morning, an empty pill bottle outside the door. The courtroom wasn't breathing anymore. It sat frozen. Judges, lawyers, jurors, press, all stunned into silence. The document, that clinical entry, Level 3 lockdown, guest RK confirmed. No surveillance, was the kind of quiet scream that made everyone's blood run cold. This wasn't wild accusation. This was process. This was structure. This was a system built to keep eyes out, mouths shut, and secrets sealed. But the prosecution wasn't done. Not even close. They stood up and dropped the name that turned the floor to lava. Your Honor, the lead attorney announced, we request to admit the testimony of Gene Deal. Gasps erupted like fireworks. No whispers this time, just raw disbelief. Gene Deal, Diddy's former personal bodyguard, not a gossip, not a blogger, a man who stood beside him for a decade, who watched every move and never flinched, until now. The defense snapped to life, trying to block it. Too late. The judge had already read the sealed documents. The objection was overruled. Gene Deal's voice was about to become public record. The courtroom locked in. The clerk began reading. I was employed as part of Mr. Combs' personal security detail for nearly 10 years. On June 13, 2016, I was stationed at the west stairwell. At 11:15 p.m., I was told by Sean directly, clear the east hallway, hold position, no one comes up, no matter who it is. I asked why. He didn't answer, he never did. The room tightened. 10 minutes later, R. Kelly arrived, escorted through a private gate only used for VIPs that weren't meant to be seen. Then a girl arrived. Young, maybe 20, 21. She wasn't with Kelly. She wasn't with anyone. Looked lost, asked for the restroom. She never came back down. That line sank deep. At 12:03 a.m., I received a radio message. Get ready, we're clearing her out. I saw her being led to the back. Her phone was gone, her face was hollow, her makeup smeared, she looked empty. No one moved, no one could. I didn't say anything then, I was scared. You don't cross Sean. But I've watched this trial and I'm done being silent. I don't know what happened behind that door, but it wasn't right and it wasn't the first time. A hush washed over the room like a funeral wave. The kind where truth gets buried unless someone rips open the casket. Gene's words weren't just testimony. They were a blade cutting through the veil, through the platinum records, the shiny parties, the sold-out shows. What he said couldn't be spun or silenced. The defense didn't even bother to interrupt. They knew. The jury, those faces had changed, no longer blank, now carved with disbelief, anger, and resolve. But the prosecution had one final move, the voice that would land like a hammer and shatter the last illusions. Their final witness, Jane Doe. Identity protected, voice trembling but clear. Her face blurred for media sketches, but her words sharp like shattered glass. I was at the June 13th party. I wasn't on the guest list. I came with a friend. I was 19. A collective breath left the room. It started like any other party. Music, lights, drinks. But after 11 p.m., everything changed. Conversation stopped. People moved away when I walked by. Then a man offered me something to help me relax. I said no. Her eyes flicked toward Diddy. He didn't look at her. He didn't look at anyone. Later, I got separated from my friend. I asked for help, and a staff member told me to stay put. A man I didn't know came up and said Sean wants to personally greet all the guests. She was led upstairs. Her phone was taken. They said it was house policy. I handed it over because I was scared. Then came the moment that shattered the entire courtroom's heart. I was led into a dim room, no cameras, voices behind a door. One of them was R. Kelly's. I knew that voice. I froze. I wasn't allowed to leave. She looked down, hands clenched. I need to be clear. I wasn't physically assaulted, but I was mentally manipulated. I was made to feel small, powerless, like I should be grateful to even be there, that no one would believe me if I spoke. She paused, her voice nearly breaking. I saw another girl crying in the bathroom, younger than me. Said she had been locked in a room earlier, said she came alone, she didn't even know whose house it was. Then the prosecutor asked just one more question. Why are you coming forward now? And her answer? It silenced the universe. Because I saw Jean's name in the news. Because I'm tired of being scared. Because when someone with money and power makes you feel invisible, you start to believe you are, but not anymore, not today. No one clapped. No one gasped. They just listened. Because sometimes silence is louder than applause. The judge called for a recess, but nobody stood, hollow, like the wind had been knocked from his legacy. The prosecution didn't just build a case, they built a mirror. And in that mirror was everything. The silence, the manipulation, the locked doors, the guarded halls, the faces people forgot until they spoke. The headlines were already rewriting themselves in real time. Social media exploded, but inside that courtroom, it was quieter than ever. Not because there was nothing to say, but because the truth had already been spoken, and it couldn't be unsaid.